Hi guys, thank you for clicking on this video. My name's Aisha and this is aishaleeanntalks. So in today's video we are going to be talking about a psychiatric facility called Muckamore Abbey Hospital, where the vulnerable and mentally ill patients that were being held there have been being abused by the staff that are supposed to be looking after and protecting them. Right now, a public inquiry is underway and charges have been brought forward. So currently this is an open investigation. So there's only so much information out there, and currently it is all alleged at this time. Muckamore Abbey Hospital was opened in 1948 as a mental health facility. It has the capacity to hold up to 1,000 patients and is run by the Belfast Health Trust. This facility is to house and care for the people that are mentally ill and unable to have their needs cared for in the community. So currently the police are investigating allegations that the vulnerable people that were housed in this hospital were being verbally and physically abused by the nursing staff there. Since allegations began to surface in 2017, investigations began and multiple arrests have been made. As it stands, almost 40 people have been arrested, 83 people have been put on suspension, and a further 64 people have been put on some form of probationary period or training. When police began their investigation, they began trawling through hundreds of thousands of hours of CCTV footage, and they found that there were over 1,500 crimes committed on just one ward alone over the space of 3 months. It's said that the footage has shown some of the most degrading and cruel behaviour towards vulnerable adults ever recorded in the UK. It's been alleged that a father was visibly upset and in tears when being told what they had found on the CCTV about his son's treatment. He was told that his son was swung around by the arm repeatedly for over a minute before he was let to fall on the ground. The father said he has epilepsy, he's on medication. They tipped him out of his chair, they rubbed knuckles on his head, and various other things that they had caught on the CCTV. He said that he only knows a short resume of the things that have happened to his son, but has been advised that they are horrendous. The father said, "I feel so guilty for putting him in, but as a parent, you thought you were doing the right thing. He was let down so badly by the system, and so were others." CCTV from the psychiatric intensive care ward show a vulnerable patient being punched in the stomach by nursing staff. The CCTV has also captured patients being punched, kicked, flicked, hit, verbally abused in multiple ways. A seclusion room is said to be used at Muckamore, but it's not monitored. I've actually managed to find a description of this seclusion room. The description is from the point of view of a family member. She said, "I saw a 12 by 8 room with padded walls and a leather chair in the middle of it. There was nothing on the walls, no stimulation whatsoever, no drinking facilities and no toilet facilities at all." This seclusion room is said to be still in use to this day under what the Belfast Trust say are extreme circumstances, but it is under review. It took quite a lot of pressure from the families of the victims for them to actually bring forward a public inquiry. It was actually quite a few years before the public inquiry began. In fact, the public inquiry only began quite recently. I watched the entire video for the motion being put forward for the inquiry, and it was quite insightful, shall we say. It said that Muckamore Hospital was a place that people would be sent to be out of sight and out of mind. Information was denied to the families. It could take days for any serious incidents to be reported back to the families, and it could take years for an inquiry to be properly pursued. The things that are alleged to have happened at this hospital are genuinely sickening. I have heard so many horrible witness accounts, and some of them I'm going to share with you in this video. I've also watched the entire motion, which was over an hour and a half, and I've taken a couple of clips from that too, because I thought, you might find that quite interesting. So these first two clips are basically just an overview of what's been happening at the hospital.
Patients, many of whom were the most vulnerable in Northern Ireland, were failed. They were allegedly abused. Patients were allegedly verbally and physically assaulted. They were treated as if somehow they weren't equal citizens, and somehow it was all inflicted on them by fellow human beings, people who were charged with both the privilege and responsibility of caring for them. It was disgusting. Regrettably, it could unfairly compromise the reputation of all those professionals who on a daily basis provide dedicated and loving care for the most vulnerable in our community. Muckamore Abbey Hospital should have been a place of safety. It should have been a therapeutic place patients could have went for loving support and care. And whilst I suspect that over the years some patients did receive exemplary treatment, unfortunately the shocking scale of abuse subsequently revealed has understandably overshadowed all that.
My thoughts are first and foremost with the families who the words Muckamore Abbey Hospital bring hurt, pain and a sense of betrayal of trust. We speak as those who have been informed of only some of what has happened in that place. My deep sense of anger can count as nothing when I think of the emotions the families must feel today and every day. This is the largest adult safeguarding case in the entire United Kingdom. Institutional abuse was investigated back in 2012, but steps were not taken, and this allegedly resulted in further harm to other vulnerable patients. The cases of physical and mental abuse were not isolated. It was not the actions of a lone worker. It was systematic in scale. Here we had the supposed sanctuary for adults with learning difficulties, where they suffered personal torment by being physically abused and assaulted by nursing staff. It is a scandal, and as such I see no other appropriate mechanism by which to investigate it other than by a public inquiry.
Since the public inquiry has got underway, a lot more information has been coming out, but investigations are still ongoing, so remember, all of this is still alleged. The mother of a former patient who was admitted to the hospital because of a bout of self-harm has told the inquiry that her daughter suffered continual injuries during her stay there. She alleges that her daughter was physically abused on multiple occasions, and that there was one occasion that she came to visit her at the hospital and witnessed her with the worst black eye that she had ever seen in her life. The sister of another former patient there says that she believes her brother was neglected during his stay there. She says that her brother, who is now in his 30s, began to exhibit challenging behaviour at the age of 14, and by the age of 19 this became out of control, and there was an incident where he attacked his mother in her bed, at which point he was sectioned under the Mental Health Act, and in 2004 he got sent to Muckamore. Initially, for the first couple of weeks, they alleged that they were told they were not allowed to come and visit, and this was so that he could come and settle in. But once they were allowed to visit, they went to visit their family member once a week. His sister claimed that he appeared very unsettled during their visits, that he was very pale, very thin and very flat. She also said that his personal hygiene was awful. He was neglected. We could all see it, but my brother couldn't speak for himself. She alleges that the family would bring him sweets and clothes, and they would label his clothes with his name on it. And then when they would come to see him on visits, he wouldn't be in his new clothes that they had brought him. He'd be in the hospital issue clothes, and they just never saw his clothes again. She said that her brother would be constantly begging and begging to come home, and that the family actually tried their hardest to get him discharged, but for quite a while they refused. The family alleged that when he was finally discharged, that he was discharged with no care plan in place whatsoever. But his sister said that once he'd left Muckamore, he went back to his usual old self, singing, dancing, laughing and talking with everybody. But he is still terrified of the idea of Muckamore, and she says that he would shudder at the name. I'd also like to share this clip of something else that was shared during the motion.
I recall an elderly and frail widow I knew well who devoted her life to lovingly caring for her severely disabled adult son. He depended on her for every aspect of his day-to-day care. Just before her death, she had to commit her son into the care of Muckamore Hospital. She died reassured that her son would receive the same care and attention she had lavished on him. That poor lady would spin in her grave if she knew the potential for her son to have become a victim, to have become a punchball for some sadistic person who was supposed to supply care. This poor man could not have resisted nor articulate the treatment he may have been receiving.
A woman has told the inquiry that she never met a doctor in the entire time that her sister was at Muckamore, which was almost 50 years. She was admitted at the age of 18, being told that she was just having an assessment, and she was there for 48 years. Her sister claims that she had received a phone call from Muckamore once claiming that her sister had been hit in the face by another patient, but this was like days after the event had actually happened. She also added that Muckamore wasn't like a hospital, it was more like a prison. All you could hear were locks and keys. The mother of another patient said that she can recall her daughter telling her that somebody was hitting her, but at the time she just presumed that it would be another patient. She said, looking back, I should have believed her when she said somebody was hitting her, but I trusted the staff there and I never heard that anything had happened. When her daughter had been sectioned and sent to Muckamore, she was denied visits for 4 weeks. When she did finally get to go and visit her daughter pointed out this white room with padded walls and told her mother, this is where you go when you're bad. The mother of another patient alleges that her son was pushed down in the shower, that he was regularly pinned down by the staff and on one occasion by 3 people. And she alleges that a member of staff once poured a bottle of water at him and they all stood around and mocked him for it. And I mean, these stories, they go on and on and on and on, and they just seem to get worse and worse and worse. The sister of another patient says that her brother was at risk of organ failure, and she alleges that when she came to the hospital, she came to find her brother had a huge gash in his head that required 4 stitches, yet nothing ever came of this. On another occasion, she alleges that the family received a phone call saying that there had been a near miss because her son, or the family member, had been given way too much medication. Not only were the staff abusing the patients, but they are putting their lives at risk. Allegedly. Sorry, I do have to add that in there every now and again. There's another account, and I think this was caught on CCTV, where the staff are actually encouraging this fight between 2 of the patients. One of the patients being a non-verbal autistic girl, and they're goading her on, saying, go on, hit her back, you big softie. Like, how sick are people? I just can't get, sorry, I probably shouldn't be giving so much of an opinion into this, but this is disgusting. This behaviour is absolutely appalling. Some of the stuff I have read has just been absolutely horrific. I can't believe it. Another mother has alleged that her son had significant bruising when she went to visit, that she took photographs of those bruises, and the staff told her that if she did not delete those photographs, that she would never see her son again. They had threatened to take away her son. They tried to make her sign some paperwork to do with these photographs, which they refused to do. And then they got a call about what happened on the CCTV. Their loved one had been captured on CCTV being abused in over 166 incidents. When the family asked him about the abuse, he said that he was too frightened to come forward. It's even been alleged that a staff member at this hospital threatened to chop off a boy's genitals if he ever spoke up about the abuse that he was receiving. Even to this day, people are still finding it difficult to get support, to get help, to make complaints, to try and get through to this hospital or even contact their loved ones. Here's another clip from the motion that just goes to show exactly what I'm saying.
How difficult they made that for elected representatives to support families. First off, you needed your consent form. So this young fellow was in here, so the mother signed the consent, thought that was adequate. The trust said no, it needs to be the patient. The patient signs the form. The trust came back and said no, the patient wouldn't have known what he's signing. So everything the trust could do to make it obstructive, to prevent anyone supporting that family, they done it. But eventually, thankfully, the trust did have a meeting, and we went through various aspects of the care that that young fellow was getting. And they changed his care, and the young fellow was more lucid and was fit to cooperate with the family. Roll on to a few months ago, we're taking steps backwards. The family contact the hospital, no, he's sleeping in the middle of the day. They arrive down, no, he's sleeping. Will they let him down to the room to see them? No, they don't. The family can't get to that room to see their son. This young fella is in his 20s, so he's not, and he has no mental, I suppose he has an issue that he's there, but prior to his involvement or his problem, he was fairly lucid with his parents. I mean, indeed, I've been there and met him and could hold a conversation with the young fellow. But the suspicion grows with families whenever they can't meet their family. So when is the best time to go and see your son? You go during the day when he's in bed? Do you go at night? Do you ring? But on every occasion, they could never get to see him. Only a few weeks ago, the father arrived on another visit to see his son being handled in a manner physically restrained, which was disturbing to him and actually questionable. He raised a complaint on that occasion. The member of staff was removed. Roll on another few weeks, that member of staff's back in the ward, but the family and the father has never been updated.
Now, this final account really got me because of how sad the ending is. It's been alleged that a teenager who was sent to Muckamore in 1992 suffered so much abuse at the hospital that it was as if his life had been taken away. His mother says that her son was sent to Muckamore at the age of 17. She was expecting him to be there for only a couple of weeks. He was there until 2018. That's 26 years. His mother said that he did not know his own strength and that sometimes he would lash out. And when the doctors and the social workers suggested that the safest place for him would be Muckamore, she trusted them. Her and her husband trusted them, and he got sent to Muckamore. She said that being put onto a locked ward was such a huge shock and such a huge change for her son. He got very upset and he couldn't understand why he had to stay there. She said that he'd gone from being an active, lively lad who loved running around and moving around to being in a locked ward or sleeping in a dormitory. His mother alleges that it was quite some time before she found out that her son was actually on a mixed ward, meaning that her 17-year-old boy was on a ward with men much older than himself, and some of which were put there by the courts for being paedophiles, abusive people, those kind of people. And they've put her 17-year-old boy in there with those kind of people. No, that's just not good. She said that the ward was really not a nice place with bars on the windows and no privacy for the lads. That, again, oh my God, you've put him in there with sex offenders They have no privacy. He's 17. What are they thinking? I mean, again, this is all alleged and like, but what? So obviously her son's mental health began to deteriorate during his stay there, and the more frustrated that he got, the more they were told he is not going to be let out. The mother alleges that when the family requested for him to be given his own room, the hospital staff emptied out a broom closet and told them that they would have to furnish it themselves. Following this, the mother alleges that she came to visit her son, sat down on her son's mattress to find it absolutely soaking wet right through with urine. She claimed that with how sodden it was, that it must have been there for some time. She said that once she had removed the soaking wet covers, she then went absolutely mad and refused to leave the hospital until they had replaced and changed his mattress, which I can completely understand. I think I would be doing very much the same. His parents were also concerned about him being put into seclusion, either in his room or in what they described as a filthy and littered yard. The mother also alleges that she had written to the hospital multiple times about the injuries that her son had been receiving. On one visit, she claims that her son had a bite mark on his inner thigh. When she spoke to the staff about this, the staff told her that they didn't have any idea and there was no way of knowing what had happened. They just brushed it off and ignored it. On another visit, she alleges that her son had a cut above his eye and a black eye. So she is very, very, very sure that her son was also being abused and, you know, really not taken care of at Muckamore Abbey Hospital. In 2018, her son was moved out of Muckamore and into a supported living accommodation, and she claims that once he moved in there, he actually got somewhat better, and during his time in the supported housing, he almost seemed like his old self. Unfortunately, he died in hospital in 2021 on his 46th birthday. His mother said, "When I think of all that he lost by being there for so long, I wish I had have seen more. I wish I would have done more. I should have known what to do." In 2022, his mother was diagnosed with lung cancer, and her main concern was that she wasn't going to live to see the public inquiry. And just before her death, she told the inquiry that she did not want her son to be forgotten. And I would really love to tell you that I know his name. I mean, by the sounds of it, she would want you to know his name. But in the articles that I read, he was just referred to as P63, which I'm guessing is just patient 63. There's so many accounts coming out. These are just a few of the really chilling accounts that I found. Bearing in mind, again, this is an ongoing investigation, and a lot of people think that this is just the tip of the iceberg and we are going to uncover a lot more. Already, the abuse has been labelled as the worst safeguarding scandal since the formation of the NHS. The Belfast Trust has issued an unreserved and unequivocal apology to all of the patients that have suffered abuse at Muckamore Abbey and their families. And they are doing what they can to try and make amendments at the hospital, but it does look quite likely that the hospital will probably end up being closed down, as it probably should, in my opinion. Many people believe that investigations should be done into the practices at all of these psychiatric facilities, because it is quite clear that there are problems across the board. Many facilities have been closed down or investigated because of similar abuse and safeguarding claims. It's a sickening injustice against the world's most vulnerable people. Nobody should be treated this way, let alone people that can't even speak up and speak for themselves. I truly believe that this whole situation is just a disgrace on humankind, and we really need to do better. So that was the story of Muckamore Abbey Hospital and the atrocities that have been going on there recently. Now, if anything else comes out, you know, anything substantial comes out afterwards, I might do a part 2, but I think we've covered most of what needs to be said in this video. Thank you for watching this video. If you're new here and you don't know what I do, I tell hardship stories, I tell celebrity stories, everyday people stories, any kind of hardship stories really. So if you have a story that you would like to share or something that you would like me to talk about, you can contact me via my email or my Facebook, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. Otherwise, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It is a free and easy way that you can support this channel. And until next time, please remember to be kind to everybody around you, because you never know what somebody else might be going through, and a little bit of kindness and compassion can go a long way. Bye bye for now.